Good morning. I've been thinking some and praying some this week about the way that God loves us. And we hear that phrase so often, God loves me or God loves you. And I think for a lot of us, it can feel like a rather distant love or a cold love, kind of like a Victorian grandmother maybe who never shows emotion but insists that she loves you, but it's just kind of hard to feel or to know. Part of the problem, of course, is that in the English language, love is actually a fairly weak word. I can love pizza and my wife and my children and the color blue, and it's all the same word, and so it gets drained of some of its power. You may remember that the Greek language has 4 words for love: storge, eros, philia, and agape, and that helps a little bit, but it doesn't really help us because those aren't words that are good words that punch us, that help us really feel the way that God feels about us. And some time ago, I began substituting, when I'm trying to understand how God loves me, a word for love, and that is the word delight. God delights in me. God delights in you. King David, both in 2 Samuel and in the 18th Psalm, writes, God brought me out into a broad place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. And delight is such a wonderful, powerful, emotional word. It has so much power for me. I think about God delighting in me. I think about the way that Jesus delighted in the children, welcoming the children, gathering them up into his arms and blessing them. I think about when I was in probably middle school and I was playing church league basketball, and I was not a good athlete and I was not a good basketball player, and I didn't typically get to play that often. And there was one game where my father was there in attendance, and they passed the ball to me down on the wing, and I shot the ball, and ordinarily it would have just clanked off the rim if it even got that far. But this time the ball just went in a perfect arc, went right through the net, nothing but net, and my father stood up and cheered for me. And at the end of that game, a game in which I only scored 2 points, probably a season in which I only scored 2 points, my father said to me on the way home, he thought that was the most beautiful, the most perfect basketball shot he had ever seen. He demonstrated that he delighted in me, not because I was the most valuable player or scored the most points, but because I had made that one shot and it was such a beautiful shot, and he made me feel so good about scoring 2 points in a ball game. God delights in us. God has brought us out into a broad place, delivers us because God delights in us. I want to use 2021 as a way for me personally to think more and pray more and consider more just what that word delight means. I heard an interview recently with the poet Ross Gay, who wrote a book a couple of years ago that he called the Book of Delights. And what he did was he wrote down each day something that delighted him. It could be something very, very simple, the taste of a particular kind of candy, or something very, very profound, the delight that he had in a loved one. And I decided I was going to do that this year. And so I picked up this journal. My kids gave it to me 9 years ago. It's a blank journal. I've never used it before. It was made by a Christian community somewhere in the world, made out of banana leaves on the outside, and somehow they use the banana to make the pages inside. And each day of this year, it is my goal to write down something that delighted me in that day or on that day, and I'm gonna try to do that. I've kept up with it so far, and hopefully that will be one of the ways that I can be aware of what delights me and be aware of the delight that God has for me. And so I invite you this day to think about the word delight. Maybe even consider doing your own book of delights, or maybe even just for today, write a few things that delight you and recognize that God delights in you. God is with you, and God delights